Yeah, Phil and Derek today found out that there's no wildcards in our curse filter in the comments. So they were just panicking and making up lists. It was amazing.
That's hilarious. I'm okay with that.
Hey, if you can be inventive, you deserve it. Bridget, could you either, I don't know if you're slouching or straight right now, but if you could just tilt your camera a little bit so you stay in frame. Here's what you look like.
There?
There you go. Yeah, good. No, now you're out of frame again. How are you going to sit?
I don't know. Like this, probably. I start off like straight, and then I shrink as it goes on.
Walk up the stairs.
It's just slinky. I'm starting slunk so that I can't get any lower.
You can't get no slunker. I slunk! I can't get no slunker! All right, is that better, George?
I don't know. Is that okay?
I'm going to say yes. How's that?
Is good.
I'll pick a random answer. Are you guys good to go?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Today's episode of the iMore Show is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to create a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Squarespace features an elegant interface, beautiful templates, and an incredible 24/7 customer support. Start building your website today at squarespace.com. Enter offer code iMore at checkout to get 10% off. Squarespace. Build it beautiful. It is December 30, 2015. I'm Rene Ritchie, and right now we're going to do our best to preview Apple in 2016. This is the iMore Show. Joining us this week from the West Side, we have Serenity Caldwell back in her native land. How you doing, Ren?
Hello. It is very cold here, but not, as I understand, as cold as it is back there. For once.
Yeah, we were beating you for a while, and all of a sudden, Hoth descended.
Yeah. I got another week out here, so I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that it might warm up a little bit so I can just lord my warm temperatures. But it is very sunny outside. We've got no sleet, no sleet. No
That
ice.
would just be cool. We just like
Sloths
we like
would be awesome.
sloths are awesome.
That
Yeah,
is the equally,
More sloths.
that is the
Back to
equally
sloths.
frozen voice of Georgia Dow. How are you doing, Georgia?
Well, besides being snowed in, practically, I'm good. I'm
What
good.
about
We
your,
have
what
no
about your
snow.
ATST walker? Don't you have that warmed up?
Yes, well, unfortunately, not yet. It's all frozen over. We'll have to use the de-icer on it.
It takes for like they look good, Ren, those Scout walkers, but having to chip out those legs from the ice storm is
Oh,
horrible.
no.
Not easy. Not easy.
They should
Plus,
have built-in hand warmers, like paw warmers.
Oh. Or just have the Ewoks hug them until they warm up.
little booties like we put on little dogs.
No, at booties, Georgia. No.
That'd be cute.
All right, so let's dive into it. We have a lot to cover, and we don't want to spend all day covering it. So Apple in 2016, let's assume there is a March event, and let's assume it is headlined by Apple Watch 2. Georgia, let's start with you because you have been begging, and you were begging and pleading for years for an Apple Watch. You finally got it. You've had a good 6 months with it. Where do you want to see them take the Apple Watch next?
The first thing I would like for the Apple Watch is to be a better watch. I'm not asking for too much. It fails as a watch. It's good for everything else, but I would like the display to
You want
be...
ambient time, right? So that it has like an OLED display and it's always showing you a little bit of time, even if it's sleeping.
Please. I'll charge it twice a day. I need for it to be a useful watch because it's such a sad thing. I can't do a little flick or tap while I'm in session, and I need to keep track of the time. So I have actually bought a little tiny digital display, which is sad. It's a sad thing that I would have to do that.
You just want your watch to be on.
I want my watch to be a better watch.
It's not that big of a
I'm really not asking for too much.
No.
It is called the Apple Watch.
What about you, Ren? What do you like to see?
I want apps to not stink, which is actually to say that I want a better incarnation of the carousel and the app picker and more guidelines from Apple on what watch apps should and shouldn't do. Because we've seen a wide variety of apps that work on the Apple Watch now. All of them are slow because of the way that the watch loads things. None of them work as quickly as I'd like them to, and almost none of them get the UI right. I've been using complications a lot, and I've said this on earlier shows. I really like complications. I don't use glances, and the carousel is the worst freaking thing in the world because you got this little tiny dial, and trying to pick an app is painful.
Do you use the dial? Do you actually ever use it?
No.
I never use it. It might as well not be there.
I use this to scroll. I'll use it to scroll, but the actual carousel, the app listing is terrible.
You see, I don't even use that to scroll though. I don't use the carousel.
No
I don't
time
use
travel,
it to scroll.
Georgia?
You know what? I think it's really cool, but no, I don't. I don't use it at all.
All right, so here's my thing. I really want to see what Apple does with the S2 computer on a chip because it's such a cool idea, and Apple's one of the few companies that can do basically computers on the chip. But I agree with both of you. I want the ambient time. I think the display technology is there for that now, I hope. And I also don't use apps, but I'm not sure they can fix carousel Ren so much as with the iPhone, they took apps from the Mac and basically put the home screen on the iPhone. Like you click a button, an app launches, and I just don't know if that works on the Apple Watch. They might need to rethink it. Maybe iPhone apps just shouldn't exist on the watch, and there should be some form of notification, complication, entry into functionality that's different than a traditional app.
The thing is, I think they could actually do a pretty good job with it if Siri was faster. Because if Siri was faster, then I'd never have to use the stupid dial and carousel. I could just press in and be like, open Authy. Also, it would have to understand what Authy is and not give me, oh, did you say OFFIE? Question mark?
Every time.
Apps like Authy would actually be perfect for the watch because I do this all the time where I'm on a site that I have two-factor for and I'm using a new computer or I'm logging into it after a while and it asks for my authentication code. That's a perfect use for the watch because then while I'm on one device I can very quickly be like, open Authy. Okay, this is my 6-digit code and I could look at it while I'm typing it. Great. Or texting, perfect. But Authy currently takes something like 30 seconds to load on the Apple Watch, which by that point I could have easily double tapped to swipe over to Authy on my phone and found it, or it's too long. I can't hold my watch up like this. I do think the health stuff is pretty good. We need more refinement on that. I would like to see more exercise types. You've got this huge fitness lab, Apple. Well, not even derby. Just like a skating sports option would be good, and also weight training is a big thing. I know I have a lot of friends who lift dead weights and the like, and the watch is really bad about sort of figuring out caloric count for that because it can't really tell what your muscles are doing. It can only sort of guess what you're doing based on your heart rate. And unfortunately, if you're doing really quick, really quick things, a couple of deadlifts, you may only be doing one max rep. That's really hard to correlate to the watch in terms of how much exercise you're actually doing.
I think that's absolutely true. And what about the bit? So I don't think the Apple Watch needs to be any thinner. I know eventually it'll get there. It doesn't have to be much lighter because it's on my wrist, and the aluminum one is ridiculously light anyway. And they're running that chipset, I think, at its thermal limits anyway. So it's not like they have a lot of space and energy to give up on there. But I want the Apple Watch bands to be compatible. I got so many bands. I don't care if they change the case. I'll buy a new case. That's cheaper than buying all these bands now, which sounds dumb. But is there anything you want to see in terms of the casing or the bands?
I really like what we have going on. I like the fact that we got our rose gold and gold on the Sport. I think that's pretty cool. More bands I'm always in favor of. More partnerships I think is a really good idea. Trying to expand it out. But if they change the band mechanism, I will be so mad. I will
march on Cupertino with signs, and I'll put sparkles on my signs.
Oh, I like that. I just want to see Renee with sparkles.
Like Kevin Smith Dogma signs with like the sparkles on them.
I think that they do have to make it a little bit thinner. It's still too large to fit when I have any shirt that has a closing sleeve, or if I wear my jackets, it gets caught. I wear suits during the daytime when I'm not in my Snugglies. If not, I'm in my Snugglies 24/7. But and it gets caught all the time, and it is okay looking, but it is not exceptionally feminine. So it doesn't really, the bands that they have are not great. So when I go out and if I'm wearing a dress, the Apple Watch sticks out. I can't wear it. And that makes me infinitely sad. So sometimes I wear it anyways, but it's slightly...
What do you want, like Swarovski? Because I know you're a big Swarovski fan.
I would love it if they had, like, something that would be more like a double bracelet strap on the watch, something that would be a little bit more dainty.
Like what Serenity is wearing, and I'll switch to
Yeah, I would go even daintier than that, because that's still thick. And so if you're wearing a dress, it's still thick. If you had a
Doesn't quite
metal,
work.
yeah, double, like, you know, so that there's space in between that makes it look a little bit more delicate, then I could get away with wearing it, even if they did just, you know, yeah, they had the Swarovski, you know, bands that are there that make it look a little bit more metallic and delicate. And that's the problem, is that it's bulky and large. And if they make it a little bit thinner, I have infinitely small wrists. I think, Serenity, you do as well. And so it takes up my entire wrist. And when I'm wearing a dress, it does not go with that. I think that for men, it looks fabulous on, and all the bands look good whether you were dressing up or not. But for women, I think that it's nice that they have a smaller watch face, but it's still missing.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with that in part. I found that to minimize its harshness, I end up wearing a lot of bracelets with it, which I actually stole from you, Georgia.
Yeah,
with the idea of like wearing I have the modern buckle, and what I'll usually do is I'll use the brown modern buckle, and then I'll have some red, and that makes it look more like a piece.
Right.
But definitely, I mean, the Hermes bands and the fake Hermes bands I have are probably the daintiest looking watch bands in the collection.
And the red and blue ones are cool.
Yeah, they are. The other problem that I have, especially, I think you can't get much smaller with the 35mm screen, but there might be something that you can do with corners and the way that it sits on the wrist. I have a weird problem in that my wrist bone is like right here. What happens is the watch gets like up here sometimes, and then it doesn't read my heartbeat, and it can't actually, it thinks that it's disconnected, and so I actually have to push it down a little bit, which is a little bit higher than I normally wear a watch because of the way that the back is currently rounded. So it'd be interesting. I'm not really sure if they could fix that, but it's from a personal perspective. I wouldn't mind a slightly nicer setting for the way that it connects with your skin.
All right, so quick transition before we get to the bigger MacBooky stuff. iPad Air 3 we'll probably see around then as well, if it doesn't get moved back. A9 processor, maybe Apple Pencil support, Ren?
Questionable. I would like to think Apple Pencil, but I don't know. The refresh rate is the big deal here. Whether or not the A9 versus the A9X can support the 240 and 360 refresh.
Or the price point.
Yeah, or the price point for that matter, to include that is a huge question. Ideally, I would like the Apple Pencil to be available on the entire iPad line because I think it's a wonderful stylus, and I think that the more devices that they have it available for, the more artistic tablets they're going to sell. I just don't know if it's financially feasible this time around. I'm hopeful because I know people who don't necessarily need the space of the Pro but want to still draw press and sensitively. Or honestly, I wouldn't even mind if they went the other way. If they looked at bringing 3D Touch to the iPad Air 3, rather than basically providing built-in multi-touch multi-pressure sensitivity for all styluses, rather than having the perfect iPad, Apple Pencil for just the one iPad.
Yeah, I guess the question is whether you could measure the deformation of the glass to LEDs accurately on such a large display, which I don't know because I'm not an optical physicist.
Yeah, me neither.
Georgia, you've had all three now for a little while. Which one? Does the iPad Air still have a place for you?
No. I don't use my iPad Air. I don't use it at all because my phone is so large. I don't. I love my large iPad, but it's pretty much I waver in between them. We were using the huge iPad actually as our display for our TV, so we're using it as like a remote, and it was on but it actually blocks out the sun, and it made like a huge dark patch in my living room, which is hilarious. So I do my own fun sketches and drawing on that, and then the rest, then I use my phone or my Air, my MacBook Air in between.
Interesting. All right, so speaking of MacBooks, last year we got the new MacBook, the MacBook with the Retina display that was so thin they could only get a 720p camera in it, has the all-new keyboard with butterfly switches on it, and the Force Touch trackpad, but it only has one port. According to Phil Schiller, they wanted to make a MacBook with no ports, but there was no way to charge the thing. Charging through metal inductively just didn't exist at that point. So they had to put a power plug in there. And if you're going to add a power plug, you might as well get a multifunction plug, so that way you can power it and do some peripherals. But that upset a lot of people. Conversely, those people can still buy MacBook Pros. So Ren, you and I were both at that event. We've got a chance to use it, way back when. Do you see it moving forward this year? Maybe a Skylake version of Core M, but what else could they do?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about keeping the processor speed down, right? Or not even necessarily the processor speed, but keeping it cool enough so that the laptop isn't going to explode in users' hands.
Melt your thighs.
Yeah. I wonder if this year might be the death knell officially for the MacBook Airs, where we might get a slightly more powerful version of the 12-inch MacBooks, and then the MacBook Airs are quietly shuffled off into that good night, which would make me really sad. But also, now that I've been using the iPad Pro, my Air has kind of been a paperweight.
Yeah, the Air is getting squashed on all sides.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bummer with the Air right now is that it doesn't have the Retina screen. Mm-hmm. It's one of the only Mac products, and really the only Apple products at this point, without a Retina screen. Mm-hmm. And there's no real way that it can continue to exist in the lineup unless they decide, oh, well, we're going to offer the 11-inch MacBook. But I really do think that they prefer that 12-inch square screen.
Yeah, it's weird because they didn't make an 11-inch, and then we all think, oh, they'll make a 13-inch next year, or a 13-inch, and oh, they'll make an 11-inch next year. It's right in between. There's no making one on either side is no point. Maybe a 14-inch, 10-inch would be too small.
Yeah, I wouldn't want a 10-inch laptop. I saw the MacBook Pro, or not MacBook, PowerBook, the old PowerBook. Yeah. The baby PowerBook.
So I've been using it for most of the year, and for me, it really is the Intel, the Broadwell Y, the Core M processor that is the sticking point. That, like I said, when my iPad Pro walks by, I hear it crying. It just starts to and threaten to jump off the counter. So I'm hoping Skylake addresses that. I know Intel had a ton of problems getting to the 10 nanometer process. Now they're there, so hopefully we'll see some benefits. I'm hoping they can get the webcam back up to spec. I know thin is not the friend of cameras. But otherwise, I think it's a great machine, and even an it's brand new, so even an incremental boost right now, I think it'd be great.
Absolutely. I mean, if we remember the original MacBook Airs, when those released with a very underpowered processor in comparison to the other laptops that were out. And then in the next couple of generations, they were seriously revved to the point where they were actually functional, useful machines. So I have full faith that this will happen with the MacBook.
Georgia, you have an 11-inch MacBook Air. Are you thinking of trading it in for a Retina MacBook? Maybe in rose gold.
Right. It's so pretty. I love using it. But I just I bought the Air at right at the end so I don't know, it still works so beautifully. I'm still really attached to my Air. It's not really that light anymore. When I take a look at your MacBook, I'm like, this is sad. The reason that I got it was because of how light and effortless it was to use, and now it's starting to become a little bit sluggish. You
actually opened them both and noticed how I had a smaller computer with a bigger screen.
Yeah. It was really a little bit sad. It was a little bit sad, but I think that I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna take a look. They'll probably tempt me, and I will see. Just using the keyboard, it's such a nice difference in between both of our computers.
I'm waiting for I see, because the Rev A board, Macs and Rev A boards are always they're tempting because they're new and shiny, but you just know
them. They always have problems.
Yeah, and whether it's any Rev A board's gonna have problems because it's the first one. You got to work out those kinks. So I'm really hopeful for year 2 because I think it's a great machine. Let's jump forward to WWDC time and the software. Across the stack, what are you looking for? We'll start with you, Ren. What are you looking for? iOS, all the OSs.
All right. Well, iOS on the iPhone, I think I'm looking for more wider adoption of 3D Touch and more of a push into what we're what we're really supposed to use it for, because we've got it sort of as a gimmick right now. But I think it could be embraced on more places system wide. That I think that it would encourage app makers to use it. I would really like a rethink of the lock screen. That's kind of been in popular discussion over the last week because of the fast Touch ID sensor. The lock screen at this point is kind of in a quandary for folks using a 6S and 6S Plus, because they just don't see it if they touch their thumb
Too
to the
fast,
Touch
yeah.
ID.
So the hilarious part of this, and I don't know how widely known this is, but Apple actually slowed it down for the Touch ID.
I believe
It's
that.
supposed to be much faster, but they were. So the problem here is that if you don't show the lock screen, people think that the phone's not locked, that they left it open. They have no way of knowing that it was actually in a locked state. So there's a concession to that. They kind of show you the lock screen briefly. But people are just so used to using the home button to see the lock screen, and it's really not supposed to do that. That was an effect of them not having a way to get you through lock screen without typing in a code or sliding to avoid accidental or unauthorized access. So basically the sleep wake button and the home button work the same, and now they're getting back to their intended purposes where sleep wake actually wakes it and home button takes you to the home screen, and we don't deal well with change.
We don't. Well, you know what? I honestly don't think that necessarily is a problem. The thing that I've heard the most complaints about is people who relied on the lock screen to check all of their notifications, not really realizing that Notification Center now has that same kind of organizational state, and you can still preview that. So maybe something where it's a little bit easier. I don't even know if it's a tutorial the first couple times you unlock your phone, where if you accidentally click, or if you even intentionally click on the home button to open your phone, a little modal alert pops up that's just like
Well, wouldn't it be nice though, like really, if I just pressed it and I got just my day's itinerary? Like, you know, instead of having to do anything, I just want to press. I would like to actually just shake it, but then everyone else.
So what would you feel about like Apple Watch-like functionality, where you either raise it, tap it, or force press it to wake?
I would love it.
That would be fabulous for me, because sometimes I just want to check what is my day, what is my to-do list, what's the weather.
And taking it out of your pocket and raising up. They already use that for like messages and Siri, so they know how to determine that, and they know it's not accidental.
Well,
and you can turn it on or off depending on, but I don't have to, you know, I don't have to do that.
Well, that's my point, though. I'm saying the Today screen would be I would love to see some of the Today widgets make their way over to the lock screen.
Yes.
Or just have that be, you know, a more substantial part of Apple's ecostructure. I know that in the past they've kind of shied away from doing that.
Yeah, it's a security.
We're going to hit iOS 10, and if OS 10 was any indication, like that's 10 iterations of iOS. Maybe it's time to give the lock screen and the home screen and app organization a second thought.
Let's get them married. It's time to be hitched.
The only problem there is lock screen bypass, which is a continual challenge for them.
Of course, and security has to be the number one concern here. But I would like to see a UI overhaul and refresh. On the iPad side, I really want more pro features. I want more push into multitasking.
I still want iPad OS.
Yeah, well, iPad OS would be amazing, but I also worry about diverging. Like, I think Apple has made so much of this idea that apps can be universal and that things can, work on multiple areas.
Well, just a springboard, sort of like the watch. Yeah. Like it gets its own springboard treatment.
Yeah. Well, see, I would be okay with that. I would be okay with a custom for iOS 10, a custom springboard for the iPhone, and a custom springboard for the iPad, and each has slightly different tasks requisite of it. But the big thing for iPad for me is I want more from Split View. I want to be able to drag and drop between apps. I would love something that I was kind of realizing today, actually. I was working with a new wonderful app that I've been using called Clipped, which is a clipboard manager that uses iCloud to manage all your clipboards all across iOS and Mac. And I was using it in some ways as like a text expander replacement, where I was just hiding things in Notification Center to frequently use. I don't know how terribly it would hinder iOS security, but I would love for there to be a new class of apps that don't just, like the extensions essentially, but instead of just requiring them to be used via the share button, actually integrating extensions system-wide so that you could pull them up with a key command if you wanted, or you could pull them up, by tapping on text. Yeah, exactly. 3D touch to pull up action extensions. It would be so much nicer, because there's so much, especially with workflow, so much potential here in a way that I think would preserve the sandbox state and not necessarily compromise security. But I would really love some investigation into that. Even if it doesn't make it into iOS 10, it's a big thing for me to increase productivity. And finally, audio work.
Yes.
The audio situation on the iPad right now is horrendous. The fact that it requires an iPhone and an iPad for me to record a podcast, and the fact that in lieu of, this is the second time I've used a Mac in about a month, because I normally, I've been really enjoying just using my iPad Pro, but it's terrible to use an iPad Pro for Hangouts right now. It just doesn't work very well because I can't hook up a mic and it doesn't recognize it properly. It's too much hassle. Make it easier, Apple.
What about you, Georgia? What's giving you? What would you like to see fixed or improved this year?
Okay, so let's go into Apple Music. It's such a sad experience. I would love to have, and this might be shocking to everyone, intuitive Apple Music. And I know, Serenity, you have done like a lot of work in helping people understand how to use, where did it go, what happened to it, where are my playlists. I don't feel like listening to ABBA today. Thank you. And so, but it shouldn't have to be that way. And so I have not been using music on my phone at all, because of such a encompassing experience it is, and
it's a bad user experience.
It's really upsetting.
And I hate to say that because I really want to like Apple Music.
I really tried. I was like trying Beats, and I'm like, I don't even know where the icon is right now. That's so sad. But
that app had an impossible job. Like, it was told to serve the needs of so many, so different users that it could not but fail.
That's the wonderful thing, is that sometimes you have to say no.
Yes. You
can't be everything for all people, because then you just make everyone frustrated. And I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with using it. And I'm sad with, all of my playlists that are different now, and I have to find things, and where did I download that music, where did it go, and why is it not there? And then I just give up, and I just say, okay, I'm just gonna redo everything, find the songs I want.
You also have a family account for Apple Music, so you get 1900 versions of the playlists your kids have made any given night.
Yes, but I had that at one point beforehand. I had that kind of set up, though I have now tons of Ori soundtracks and stuff, but from video games. But I had a way that worked for me, and music for people is their way of soothing and decompressing and creating a mood. And so to have that messed with, and it's not working better, it's not more intuitive, it's less so, is very frustrating for many people.
So your use case is actually really cool, because it's close to mine but different. For me, I just use Siri to play whatever song I want, so I'm perfectly happy. I never even look at the music app. I just say, Siri, play me this song by this artist, and I'm fine. But you would purchase the songs, you would hear a song, you Shazam it, you'd purchase it, and then you'd have a list, and that your music app would only contain the stuff that you had picked. And now you have no idea what those songs are anymore. So
I don't even remember most songs' names. I don't remember.
Yeah, so
I can't do that. I'm like, what is that song again? And I'm like, it's Wayward. What is it?
So that's what I meant. It took Jim Dalrymple with 80,000 versions of every AC/DC song, and it tried to fit his needs and failed. And there's millennials who only ever want to stream, and it took their needs and failed because it was too complicated. And I'm fine, because I just tell Siri to play stuff. But Serenity had a hybrid, and it doesn't serve any. So it's one app trying to do too many things. It's an app divided against itself, and it could not but fall.
It's so frustrating. And again, there's a good way to do multiple versions of an app, but they did not have enough time, and they did not put enough care into it. And it just feels like a half-built version of 3 different things.
It's a hack job.
No disrespect to the engineers, but part of me feels like the engineering team in iTunes org should be moved over to the main software team under Craig Federighi and just integrate it into the entire site, because they just do this all the time. They make these things. It's an integrated whole, and I have a feeling that we would get a very different experience if that happened.
Well, let Eddie and his department do what they do best, which is negotiate the licenses and make sure the artists are happy, and then let the engineering team do what they do best, which is build apps that are hopefully solid. And yeah, I mean, Apple has had some problems there in other arenas, but overall, Apple Music has the potential to be something really special, and because the sharing is so weird and Connect is just a pain point and terrible, I have currently 3 music subscription services because I've been testing them for a couple months. I've got Apple Music, I've got Spotify, and I now have YouTube Red. And despite the fact that the only reason I have an Apple Music subscription right now is for Beats One, which technically you can get without a subscription. It's depressing to me, the fact that Spotify is actually a nicer user experience, and their custom playlists has even improved, which was my big knock against them when Apple Music first came out. I want to champion Apple Music. I think that they have a lot of things going for them, and I actually think that Beats One is really special, and the people who work on Beats One it's a really potentially great way for people to discover music. But they're throwing away all of this goodwill and all of these special deals, like the world tour with Taylor Swift, that video that they got to release exclusively. They're just throwing the stuff away. I don't know.
It's not fun when you land there.
Yeah.
And there was no beta label on it at launch, which is sad.
Well, and it's like if you want videos, you can just go straight to YouTube Red now and download those.
Yeah, they created the Frankenstein of music, unfortunately. They
All
put
right.
a lot of different things into it.
Frankenstein. All right, so iPod lineup came in June. I don't think we're going to see an update to it this year. I wonder. I don't think they can end of life it now because they just updated it. But I don't think we'll hear word one about iPods. Outside chance we get a bigger one, but I don't even know if they're going to bother with that anymore.
I don't know.
The new iPod.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like really the use case for it is minimal.
Oh, I forgot to ask this. Radios in the Apple Watch Serenity or too soon?
Cellular
Like
radio?
cellular and GPS.
Oh, all right, I'm hoping for GPS. I think cellular is too soon, but man, would I love that. I would be so excited to have an Apple Watch because that would eliminate a lot of the handoff problem that's going on between the iPhone and the watch right now. But I'm pretty...
Serenity and I were in a Starbucks in Florida for the Mobile Nations meetup, and we were using our Apple Watches, and the guy behind the counter got so excited and brought out his Galaxy Gear, and he said, "Yeah, it's got LTE," but it was the size of the original iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge. So I would prefer to keep the size or reduce the size rather than shove in a cellular radio.
But GPS would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm a home week for GPS. Honestly, something iPod that occurred to me this year, 2016 is all going to be about wireless. I mean, I'm wearing wireless headphones right now. Wireless headphones have really gotten to the point where they're comfortable, they have great battery life, and I wonder if we might see an integrated iPod Beats headphones.
Ooh.
Like where
interesting.
Where you actually have storage in the headphones, and then it's all Siri related, right?
I almost want you to stop podcast and write that up right away.
That's a great idea. No, I think that would be a great way to revive the iPod. I remember I was talking to Jason Snell about like how I would also love it to be like a walkie-talkie, like in between, just like when you're playing paintball or something else out in the field, that we could just have a little signal in between each other, which would work well with, you could play music and then you could like talk to someone else.
Yeah, you could do a shortwave radio too. Yeah, but can't you just see the Apple commercial where someone just taps like this and is like, play Taylor Swift? And then
you have to write that up, Serenity.
I love it. I think that's a great idea.
That's brilliant. EarPods already done.
Yeah, exactly. EarPods. It's the name. It's already in the name. And there was a joke about this, and I want to say SNL years ago about like the flea pod where you just stuck it in your ear. But I think because the way that Bluetooth earphones have evolved, there's a lot. It's a lot friendlier of a market and a neighborhood, and you don't necessarily have to have teensy tiny things that goes in your ears. It's probably going to be a big Beats headphone. Maybe not for exercise just yet, but I think the potential is there. It could be really cool.
Okay. All right, that just makes the whole podcast worth it for me. All right, so the big deal, where Apple makes all their money, the iPhone. This year is not an S year. This year is the year we traditionally get a redesign. There's a lot of things on the table now because there are ways to do inductive charging through Meadow now, so we could have wireless charging for the iPhone. There's rumors, we've written about them, that they might get to the home button, and there could be some combination of Force Touch and Touch ID in the screen and things like that, which would let them make the iPhone case smaller. So even with the large screen, it wouldn't be as physically hard to hold the phone. There's just a lot going on this year. Georgia, what aside from your long-demanded espresso dispenser out of the Lightning port, what do you want to see?
Yeah, I've given up that I'm ever going to get a lit-up logo in the back. Okay, I've given it up. But no, what I would love is, I would love the inductive charging. It makes it easier for me to charge, and I wouldn't have to fumble around with at night. You could just throw it down onto your little charging state, and that would be it.
You do knock it off with your comforter, though. I've knocked my Apple Watch off 3 or 4 times in the last couple of weeks.
Which is true, but at least it would be the entire area that you could just place it down on, and it would just charge, which would be lovely. I think that I would really greatly approve of having a waterproof iPhone because, like, I have been one of those people to drop my phone into the toilet. I have dropped it often into the bathtub because I usually have it relatively close to me. And so if they could make it waterproof, that would be fabulous.
Your iPhone lives a hard life.
It needs to be, shatterproof would be fabulous, but waterproof, I think, is just so and I would love if it was like really waterproof, so I could take it diving when I do my scuba. I could take my phone and then take some great, pictures with it and video. I would love to have...
So waterproof the way the Apple Watch is, where you can take it in the shower and quickly swim, or actually you can take a 30-foot shark diving?
I would like a 10, 15-foot, be able to use my... I would really like it to be not water resistant, but water.
Like 3 times the size and bright yellow, like in one of those Kenner cases.
No. Though if Apple made a nice waterproof case, I bet it would be fabulous. But even if
I would get it.
I would go with that, yeah, because the other cases are just hideous. Or you end up with like little Ziploc pouches, which I have to use. But I think that it's something that people would use a lot. It's the phone that's easiest to carry with you, to bring a camera, to be able to take diving pictures or pictures at the beach and not having to worry about having sand and sleet and dust and other things that are going to get stuck all around your phone is lovely. And if you're cooking or doing other things and having your hands that are wet, you don't have to worry as much about using it.
So I can get fully on board with the waterproofing to the degree the Apple Watch is, but I don't want to pay the construction cost of Georgia Shark diving iPhone.
I don't necessarily need the iPhone. I don't think the iPhone needs to be fully waterproof. And in fact, we've seen, unofficially, the iPhone is more water resistant than iPhones past. But I would love to have them at least have it be tertiarily waterproof. Waterproof right. up to 10 feet, 3 meters.
10 feet I'm good with. I could do 10. I would accept that. That's a good deal. You talk to them, Serenity.
You can still see
yeah. It's the waterproof enough so that if you drop it in the sink or the toilet or, God forbid, the pool...
So Craig Hockenberry could swim with it. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. He can just attach it to his arm and swim. It'll be great.
It's normal size for him.
Yeah, no big deal.
I would love to have Apple Pencil support on my phone because I like to game with it and I draw on my phone.
It's too long.
You know what? It's actually, I like the length because if you are playing a game that's like... a swapping game, your hand is what gets in the way of being able to see the screen. So having a long, so most of the styluses that I really loved were long styluses for that reason. So my hand is not in the viewing screen.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm okay with the length. Like you could make a cute one for me and I'll be okay with that too. But
I would recommend Georgia a Jot Dash for the iPhone. I feel like that's the right length for the iPhone personally. But
I'll take a look. I'll take a look at it. That might work.
I will admit that when I'm using my iPad Pro and I pick up my iPhone occasionally, I will try and do it on the iPhone. To no luck.
It would be like Field Notes. The iPhone 6S or the iPhone 7 Plus would be like Field Notes with the Apple Pencil.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about you, Ren? Any big iPhone requests for this year?
iPhone requests. Camera. They did a pretty good upgrade in the 6S. But I would actually love to see some software side. We've heard lots of rumors of camera companies that Apple has acquired and the various technology that they have acquired therein. And I think the iPhone 7 might be a great place to kind of launch that. 4K video is only going to get better. Right now we can only shoot it at 30 frames per second. I would really love to see 60 frames per second 4K video, or God forbid have 240 frames per second slow-mo on 1080p.
Or maybe 30 frames per second HDR.
Yeah, there's a lot of little stuff that they could do in here. I think filming in 3D is pretty much a gimmick and nothing more. But it would still be it'd be cool to see Apple tackle it.
Holograms? Are we gonna get holograms?
Hey, we already have pseudo BB-8 holograms.
That's true.
My big thing, honestly, is I want sapphire screens. It may still be too expensive, but I'm hoping.
Or just the capacity to manufacture them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean that too, for that matter. Because I've got this 6S Plus, and there's a giant gouge in this screen, and it has never been dropped.
Oh no! Show us.
Hold on. Let me see if I need to pull up a. I need to pull up a white screen so that you can
see. I know I'm so clumsy, and I have to say I have been so good.
I don't know if you can see it. it's right here, and there's just a little. It's like a
Oh
little
yeah, that's
slice
strange.
right down the middle, and that happened maybe within the first week or two that I had the iPhone. It's the point where it's a really great screen. I think it's protected from drops a lot better because of the way that the corners are made, but it's still not the strength that it needs to be. And while scratches aren't going to ruin your iPhone experience, it's still one of those things where if we had a sapphire screen, it would look a lot nicer. And any way to keep it from being as slippery would be great. More battery life would be great. You know, not without the expense of the extra weight.
It's so funny. I was talking about this with an engineering friend the other day, and he goes, "You Apple people are nuts." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Everything I read, it's like, get rid of the bezels, make the screen bigger, make it thinner, but double the battery life." Like, oh yeah, we'll get right on that.
No big deal. Hey, you asked for a wish list. You didn't ask for a
Could we make it?
Well, so I threw him up the picture of the Tony Stark phone from Iron Man where it's transparent aluminum. I'm like, done. And he's like, even that's got a bezel, not good enough. I'm like, oh. Yeah, that kind of stuff is I'm super interested because I think this is the time when there are certain things that if Apple doesn't do it this time, there's some interesting things like, are we going to switch screen technologies? I would have thought we might go to OLED, but now they're using the LED themselves as part of the 3D touch sensor, so maybe they'll go to quantum dot instead. And we have all these different technologies out there, and it's super interesting. They've had 2-3 years to work on this, and so it's not the technologies of today that they've been working on, it's technologies of 2-3 years ago, but they're in a place where they can afford to buy the future. So I think the iPhone's going to be one of the most exciting things this year. Also on the list, an iPad Pro 2. Are we ready? And that's going to also bring in the Apple A10 processor. Mm-hmm. So iPad Pro 2, Ren, too soon to have big changes? Is it going to be iterative? Does it need major hardware overhauls?
I'm pretty happy with the iPad Pro right now. I don't know if there's anything that they really could do other than, you can always speed it up. No one's going to complain if you put a better graphics processor in that. Gosh,
it's too fast. It's like Touch ID 2, way too fast.
I think that anything they can do to encourage developers to make more pro-level applications is great. And if that means putting even more powerful hardware in it, that's awesome. I also think this may be a little bit iOS related, but they have these adapters, right? They have their Lightning to USB adapter. And I think it would behoove them. They've come out with a new version of the SD adapter, which now supports USB 3.0, but they have not come out with a new version of the USB adapter, to my knowledge. The USB adapter is still USB 2. Mm-hmm. So I would be very curious to see if this next year brings a Lightning to USB adapter that is A, USB 3.0, and B, might support a wider variety of accessories.
I would like all of Lightning to go because they have the new controllers. The storage controllers are all super fast now, so all Lightning cables should just go to 3.0.
Of course. But in addition to just having, connections with cameras, I really do think, the iPad, I don't think needs a USB port in it because that's just silly, but I do think that it should be able to connect to microphones. It might even, if you want to use a wired USB keyboard with your iPhone, with your iPad Pro, I really don't see a reason why you shouldn't be able to.
Okay, hippie, use your keyboard. Go. Yeah. Knock yourself out.
I mean, drivers aside, there are a lot of things that Apple could potentially support with a USB connection that would be good for the iPad Pro and good for the app market surrounding it. Making it easier to connect things without having to have a powered USB hub between the iPad and whatever you're using, that would be awesome.
So I just ask this then, because they are conflating Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C a little bit. Like they're going to essentially be the same interconnect at the end. The cables will be all virtually the same. Should Apple just ditch Lightning and go all in on USB-C? I mean,
you know what? For future's sake, I kind of want them to. I don't know if it's going to happen this year.
And will people be mad because they got super mad when we switched from 30-pin dock to Lightning?
Yeah. So well, I can see the argument of we're unifying cords, and as the iPads and iPhones get closer in some ways to Macintoshes, I don't necessarily see a huge problem with that. But we've only had 3 years with Lightning, 4
Since
years
the
with
iPhone
Lightning.
5.
Just
And also,
all your accessories. It's just having to change everything.
Yeah,
You've not
it's
gotten
just
enough
insane.
charging. Like, you know, you're like, oh, yay, now I feel comfortable. I have one in my purse. I have one in
I
my house. I have one
finally
in my
have
car.
enough, exactly.
And then they switch it, and you're like, oh, now I have like one, and I have to find it, and I've stolen one from Renee, and he's
And
like,
I'm
where
never
is it?
gonna
I'm
be
like,
able to
I don't know where it would
charge.
go.
Yeah.
what's super interesting to me, though, is when you look at all the stuff that was announced this year, everything that is just charging is using Lightning. Like all the Magic accessories, even the Apple Pencil, that's all being charged off Lightning. It's only when they go to heavy data use, like the Apple TV, that they're using USB-C. So I don't know if really USB-C gives them everything that they want on the charging end yet.
Yeah, it might be. And also, you know, we're talking about the potential of wireless charging. That may mean, you know, that may not be necessarily a thing.
So
Maybe
yeah, so on
that's how
that
they do
topic,
it.
ditch the 3.5mm headset jack. Is it time?
Oh yeah.
That thing's
Wireless is the
dust.
future. Honestly, I really like my wireless headphones. They're not that much more expensive than normal headphones. And if Apple either provides wireless headphones in the box or provides maybe, I don't know, an adapter in the box with Lightning so that you can use use regular headphones.
Lightning earbuds in the box,
Yeah.
optional $30 adapter, or wireless for $120.
I think honestly that they could get away with offering cheap earpods, wireless earpods. I think they can just bite the bullet and do this. This is a place where they can move the industry forward and just say, you know what, we don't
The problem
want
with that, though, Serenity, is that I would lose them. Right? Because the only reason that I don't lose them is because they're attached by this wire.
it.
The only
It'd
reason.
be in your hair, you wouldn't be able to find them.
I wouldn't be able to find, be like searching.
Yeah.
Like fly
Yeah,
out
just
of
to be clear,
it.
it's
They
not
become little
about.
Barretts.
I'd have to have it on my watch to be able to find them then, so that they'd
It'd
be.
work with your
Hey,
watch.
if they work via Bluetooth,
That would be okay then.
They would
That
chirp
would be
at
okay.
you.
And I
Yeah.
believe Apple has these things, so it's just a question of whether they release them or not. But the interesting thing is, it's not about thinness, because the port, the USB-C and Lightning, is not that thin, but it goes a fair bit into the phone. It takes up space, and that space could be used to help fill up Taptic engines or batteries or all sorts of other things that they want to put into those phones. So it is space that can be reclaimed, and it feels like eventually, I know that thing is 100 years old. Will it survive another 100 years, like to use the Syracuse time over destiny theorem? How long will those things be there? And it feels like Apple can do these things when they're in the big redesign years, and we accept them better.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. It feels crazy, but it also feels very Apple.
So
yeah.
No, so moving us along, because I don't want to get us too long.
We're crunching time, yeah.
Yes, Apple TV. Do we need new hardware next fall? We just got the new one, but it did not come with things like HDR. Did not come with 4K. Did not come with an A9 processor. It does its job, but it's current technology. It's not very future-proof yet.
I mean, we could get one that has an upgrade, but honestly, I would prefer to see more iteration on the software side, especially to offer extra controllers. And honestly, I wouldn't even mind seeing a Bluetooth accessory that works kind of like the Kinect does, where it has a camera and the ability to track, especially because I was playing an Apple TV game the other night called Just Dance Now, which was, I think, originally released on the Xbox. Yeah, well,
Dance.
On the Xbox, the Kinect camera tracks your motion that way, so you can just dance not holding anything. On the Apple TV, you're required to hold either a remote or an iPhone, because you can't have multiple remotes like you do with the Wii. You have to hold your iPhone in your hand while you're dancing.
Takes me both hands.
Georgia, did I beat you
much.
at the Superman on Xbox, or were you winning the Superman?
I think I was winning at the Kinect game. I think I was winning.
No.
Yeah. So they're just I don't know. I think that the Apple TV has huge potential and very little execution right now, especially on the games and app front. And I would like to see the software more expanded to promote good apps and good games developed. I would like to see URLs for Apple TV games.
Oh,
so we can
Universal,
recommend
just
them to friends.
Universal App Store. Let me buy an app on any platform or on the web, and then confirm it when I get to the device. So if Serenity sends me, this is a dancing game, you have to beat Georgia at this game, let me tap button on my iPhone, are you sure you want to buy this? When I get to my Apple TV, it says, you began a purchase, do you want to complete it? And let me do that on the web everywhere.
Yes, agreed. 100%.
Conversion. Good for everybody.
And can they fix the controller? I still stick it the wrong way. It's facing the wrong way. I'm in the dark. I'm in a movie room. I don't know.
The only way I do it, I added the strap, and that's the only way I can figure out which way is up.
I put up a redesign today. If you go to iMore today, you can see I did an alternate version of it.
I don't like your up arrow, Renee. I like everything else. I don't like your up arrow.
I know. It's controversial.
I'm going to take a peek. Taking a peek now.
What about, there are a lot of problems with Bluetooth. Like, Bluetooth is not an ideal technology. If it gets anywhere near complicated, it falls down and starts to cry. So would you be okay with Apple coming up with a proprietary wireless protocol that then enabled them to have, 4, 10 active controllers and inputs at once?
Sure.
But non-standard.
I mean, non-standard, yes. Actually, I would be more up for them coming up with the future of Bluetooth. And just being like, we're tired of waiting for Bluetooth 5, and Bluetooth is cranky. Here's our other standard. And people can use it if they want, but for now, we're using it with the Apple TV.
Yeah, I would love that too, because there's so many constraints that are based on limitations of Bluetooth, because Apple's not willing to have controllers that sometimes work, so they've restricted the number of controllers to the ones that they can absolutely guarantee are going to work, and that means very few, and that makes me sad.
Yeah.
So fix that. Other Macs, so Mac Mini, Mac Pro, iMacs, OS 10. Georgia, I don't think you've even upgraded to El Capitan yet, so I don't know if you're going to be able to complain about it.
No, I'm not complaining at all. Everything is absolutely great. I'm not on it.
Okay. All right.
So I'm loving it. It's all good.
Serenity, I know for me, Split View, we talked about this before. Split View is just not manageable on OS 10 yet.
It's a bummer. And enough apps don't support it to make it worthwhile.
And once you're locked in, you got to destroy it if you want to make it. You just can't switch. It's
not flexible enough.
Yeah.
They made it's funny to me because in El Cap, Mission Control is much better, and they made Mission Control so much more flexible. And then they introduced Split View, which is kind of like the tiger, not the tiger, but the lion version of Mission Control, where it's super strict and you can only do this and you have to explain. You can't drop apps on top of each other to create new Split View. I don't know. It's not where I would like it. But again, 1.0. There's room for improvement.
I think the Mac Pro just again depends on Intel shipping the Halem processors that Apple actually wants.
Yep.
Not the Halem, sorry, Xeon processors that Apple actually wants to use. I would love if they finally ship that 5K, formerly 4K now 5K monitor, and that's waiting on Thunderbolt 3. Those chips have to ship, and once they do, I think we'll see MacBook Pros that support it, iMacs that support it, Mac Pros that support it, and then everyone who ever wanted to have their eyes blown out by gorgeous pixels will be super happy, and multiple monitors with them.
This year is the first year that we'll see the Thunderbolt display.
I hope so.
Display.
I mean, as far as I know, it really is just waiting on Thunderbolt 3 ports because it needs them.
Yeah, I hope so. I just realized you mentioned the Mac Pro. I'm like, I know what I want from next year. I want to see the first version of Final Cut post Randy Abilos.
Ooh, yeah.
Because we haven't really seen a lot of Final Cut update. We've seen little bits here and there in the last year, but I want to see where Final Cut Pro 10 is going from here. It's a pretty great program. Also, I want Final Cut on iOS. Darn it.
Yes, Final Cut, Xcode, all the pro apps.
Corel built a really lovely sort of version of a nonlinear film editor on top of Avid's iOS app called Pinnacle Studio Pro. And I've been using that, and that's pretty good, but I want to see Final Cut on the iPad Pro. It totally can support it. It has the potential. I want to see it. Forget iMovie.
I agree. So we're going to take one last break, and then we'll come back with final words. So I want to once again, let me just bring it up here. I want to once again thank Squarespace for sponsoring the show today.
Squarespace.
They are absolutely awesome. Actually, recently Georgia wanted to make a website for one of her nefarious projects. Actually, it was probably a well-intentioned world healing project. I shouldn't cast aspersions on it. And typically in the old days,
videos. I'm trying to help people.
Well, no, but in the old days, she'd be like, "Can you build me a website?" And I'd open Coda, and I'd get an FTP account, and I'd upload it, and she'd call me several times a week to update it. And it's not just here, I'm going to make you a website. It's I'm going to commit to supporting this thing for you every week, every month for the next few years, and that's a lot of work. which is why web development used to cost so much. And now I just said go to Squarespace, and you had to have funders. You got to go around and look at your templates.
I could look at the templates. They were really easy to use. I also called support, and they were lovely with me to help me. I'm like, what would be the best one to be able to sell videos? And they're like, for what? And I'm like, for anxiety. And they're like, here, check out these ones, and let's go into where you would want it and take a look at the templates. And you can view other people that have designed similar websites so that you can, if you're not really sure what it should or might look like, they have beautiful, beautiful designs. They have pictures that you can put up that are just free to be able to use. They go through the fonts. It's really easy to make a professional-looking website with zero knowledge. I have knowledge, just not on making websites.
No, but that's the thing, is that it opens it up to everybody. One of my New Year's resolutions is to blog about non-Apple things. Like, people keep asking me for recipes because I post these pictures of stuff that I cook on Instagram, and I really don't have a place to put those. So I've been thinking, I was going to start up a website, and I found myself opening Coda, and as much as I love it, I'm like, no, I'm just going to do this.
Too much.
Like some people do, like self-hosted. No.
Why reinvent a wheel that someone's made a better wheel?
Yeah, so I just started looking, and there's some great stuff there, and I'm going to, sometime over the next couple of days, I'm going to set up a website. Right now, my domain redirects to my Twitter site, but that's just dumb. So I'm going to redirect it properly, and you'll be able, if you want to see my latke recipe, it'll be right there. You want to...
They were delicious.
Thank you. Grilled cheese latkes, I'm just saying. If you want to see, like, pasta, all that kind of stuff, I'm just going to put all of that right there. My thoughts on Star Wars, not going to write them on iMore, going to write them there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be so easy because of Squarespace. So here's what I want you to do. I would like you to just take a look. Go to squarespace.com and check it out. It's super simple. It's intuitive. There's beautiful templates. There's amazing support. It scales. It does everything you need to do. I hesitate to use the word effortless because it does. You do have to spend the time to choose what you like, but it takes all the grunt work out of it, all the stuff that you don't want to do. It takes off all the heavy lifting, and it just lets you make a gorgeous website. Like Georgia said, 24/7 online support. So what are you waiting for? Start a trial now with no credit card required. Start building your website today. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code iMore to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for the iMore Show. I want to thank Squarespace for their support. Squarespace, build it beautiful. Thank you, Squarespace. All right, so end of the year, big picture stuff. We've got Phil Schiller now taking over the App Store. Jeff Williams is officially COO. Johnny Sarugi officially Senior Vice President of Internals. Johnny Ive is Chief Design Officer. Got a bunch of cool Senior Vice Presidents and Vice Presidents. A lot of energy, a lot of cool stuff. 4 platforms now, iOS, OS X, watchOS, and tvOS. Georgia, in general, from Apple, what are you most looking forward to in 2016?
I'm most looking forward to, of course, the iPhone 7. I'm really excited about that, and another watch.
More watches.
The next watch. I want a next watch.
In what color? Would you like it in rose purple?
I'm thinking black or gold.
Ooh,
is the edition going to stick around, like a platinum edition or something, a white gold edition?
I don't think that there's a huge, like, again, because it's not showy. The rose gold is showy, and people want to show off their technology. They want to show off something bright and beautiful, and because it will look so similar to one of the cheaper versions, I think that I don't really.
Louis Vuitton straps.
I'm not into that kind of thing. I just want it to be something there's delicate and something that looks really rugged and cool. I'm into either rugged and cool or delicate and pretty and sparkly.
You want Sarah Connor's watch strap?
I'll take that.
What about you, Ren? Big picture stuff.
Big picture stuff. I'm looking forward to iOS 10. I am looking forward to a new redesign of the iPhone and new watches. I want to see what they're going to do for watchOS 2 or watchOS 3 and the next version of Apple Watch.
Are both of you going to stick with a Plus?
Yeah, I think so.
I am. I love it. There's no way that I could go back to a smaller phone. I just could not do that.
I think there'll be a smaller phone because I think there's enough of a market for there to be one, but I think Apple's... I loved it in that 60 Minutes thing when Johnny Ive showed all the different sizes that they tested out, and he went with the ones that just felt right to him. Like, he has this intrinsic sense of design, and this felt right. But there is addressable market there, and one of the things that as Apple gets bigger, you have to add addressable markets. That's why they're getting into watches, why they're getting into... We didn't talk about cars. I think it's a bit early to talk about Apple cars still.
Yeah, a little bit.
But they're still working on it, and why they're getting into these markets, and why they have to do them differently, because you do not sell a car the same way you sell an iPod. This is whole new businesses, and they've got us trying. And that's why I think they're trying all this stuff, and I think it's going to be super interesting. I do hope they get a little bit clearer with their messaging. I feel like, Steve Jobs controlled messaging so tightly, and he was such a great presenter, that absent him, you have a group of people who are all really, really good presenters, and they've been much more open, and they've been much more engaging, and we see all these fantastic interviews now. But it still feels like you need someone to be like that director, that editor, and Johnny Ive had such a different personality that it probably can't be him, and maybe it has to be Tim Cook because he is the boss, or maybe it has to be Phil Schiller because he does own marketing. But someone to just say, here's the message of iPad, which really hasn't been that clear since 2011, and we believe, and here's the focus of Apple Watch. It's not these 19 different things. It's convenience and maybe a couple other things, to just nail all that super hard again. And I think that would evaporate a lot of the problems that we saw with things like music and things like WWDC and even things like the battery case, which people just didn't understand when it shipped. I think that, to me, is the big thing. Whew. All right, killed that show.
Woo!
Georgia, if people want to find you on the interwebs over the holidays, where can they go?
If you're dealing with anxiety or sleep issues, you can check me out at anxiety-videos.com, or, of course, on Twitter, it's at Georgia_Dow.
Awesome. And that's also what it is on Instagram, though you refuse to use it.
I will occasionally go there if forced to.
Okay. Serenity, what about you?
I am Saturn on Instagram and Twitter, as well as hanging out on imore.com. We just put up some tech tips for your family, working on some HomeKit stuff, working on my best apps of the year list, which is becoming Federico Viticci-esque length right now. It's pretty terrible.
Is that a reference to his writing or his beard?
Good question. I think his writing, but... Nice. And then I'm typing up that earpods piece as we speak.
You really should. That's a great idea. I love it.
That's genius.
Love it. I would totally get them.
I'm surprised no Chinese company has thought of this yet.
I'm sure they have, but they probably suck, and Apple could do a good job.
Yeah, exactly. I just haven't heard of it. I haven't ever seen it.
If you're at CES in Tiny Town, send us a picture.
Yeah, exactly. If you see music embedded in earphones.
And if you haven't already, there is one holiday. They forget Doctor Who. There's one holiday special you absolutely have to listen to, and that is Serenity, friend of the TARDIS, Jason Snell and company. What's the official name again? I always forget the name of the company.
It is the Incomparable Radio Theater on the Air, also known as the Finley.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Finley Quality Network.
Awesome. It sounds like a good whiskey brand.
It does. Finley Quality.
Yeah, so check out that Christmas special. It's got all your favorite characters.
We had a ton of fun. There are lots of cameos. It's a story about space and hope and exploration and new beginnings.
Awesome. You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find all of us at iMore. The video version of the show is at youtube.com/iMoreVideo. The audio is at iTunes. If you haven't already, please take a moment. Please leave a review. Please leave a rating. It sounds silly, but it really does help. It encourages iTunes to feature us so we can find awesome additional people in the audience like you. I hope you all had fantastic holidays. I hope you have a terrific new year. We're going to have a ton of content coming your way. We are the 500th episode coming in like 9 weeks. Oh, boy.
What?
Yeah, we'll make that something special. For the 400th episode, I think Georgia yelled, "This is Sparta," and kicked me into a ditch. So we'll see if we can pop that.
Well, what I'm thinking is you guys should all come down to Boston, and then we'll just do a crazy parade through the snow. Or I'll come up to Montreal.
That sounds good. Come up to Montreal.
All right.
All right, everyone. Have a fantastic New Year. See you in the new season.
Happy New Year, iMore. Thanks for listening.